Hey guys, you're listening to the Today's Eden podcast, episode 43. This is where the struggles are real, the callings are heavy, the kids are sticky. We come together because it takes a village, and this is your tribe. Hey guys, happy Wednesday. I am so excited to share this episode with you guys. Today it is with Katherine Wintsch, and she is the founder and CEO of the Mom Complex, an internationally acclaimed consultant company that serves Fortune 500 companies like Johnson & Johnson, Kellogg's, Lego, and Walmart. Pretty awesome. She has been featured on the Today Show, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Fast Company, and she is a blogger for the Huffington Post and Working Mother magazine. Katherine was also named one of Ad Age's 40 Under 40 and Business Insider's 30 Most Powerful Women in Advertising, which, holy cow, if that's not intimidating. She is also the 2016 Working Mother of the Year from Advertising Women of New York. You guys, we are going to talk about her TED Talk that she did about the mask of motherhood, and basically just why she has felt the calling to be so transparent in her journey through motherhood, not only personally, but also how that translates into her corporate job as she is impacting the companies that we buy from. And so it is just a really good conversation. Unfortunately, our beginning of the conversation kind of got cut off. I'm not sure how that happened. So I want to give you a little insight before we get into it. So where you'll hear Katherine come in at is that I'm asking her about how she came about speaking on the mask of motherhood for her TED Talk, like what brought that on, and also how we can acknowledge our strengths and our weaknesses as women, and just owning it and being okay with it. And so here is what Katherine had to say.
Our society, paints mothers in a certain way that we have all the answers and mom knows best. And, I would just say to anybody who's listening, if you are parading around as perfect, but you feel broken on the inside, and you need to ask yourself, how's that working for you? And if it's not working for you and it's wearing you out and you're so exhausted, then it's not working, and you need to find a way to kind of break through that. And I would just advise people to just kind of dip your toe in the water. You don't have to go into a TED stage and say in front of thousands and thousands of people that you're broken, like I did. But for me, I needed to do that because I knew I couldn't turn back. I knew I couldn't turn back into this like facade of a life I was living because I was so far down the rabbit hole. But, for other people, just start to say no, just start to let your truth, leak out. Tell your boss, you don't want to be on this project anymore. And what I would say is that, and this is a great thing, people don't care about you as much as they care about you. As much as people don't care about you as much as you think they care about you. And so, we worry about disappointing people. We worry about letting people down. We worry about feeling selfish if we're taking care of ourselves. But in my experience, when you speak your truth, it brings out the truth in other people, and people don't get as disappointed or upset with you as you think they will. But also, who are you living your life for? Like, why are you living your life for other people? It's your life. You only have one. And, happiness should be a big part of it.
What would you say has been like your most transformational form of self-care?
I would say both therapy and my life coach, in that therapy was kind of the beginning of my road of healing and self-help. And that is a wonderful moment to sit on a couch and pour your heart out and cry and talk about the way you were raised, talk about the things that influence you, and really just start to get some of that baggage that has been on the inside, just get it out of you. And I don't know why there's such a stigma around therapy. I tell anybody and everybody it's the best money that you will ever spend. I think children can do it and should do it. I think men and women should do it. I think couples should do it. We know so much about, other subjects in our lives, and we know so little about ourselves. And spending an hour learning about yourself is, in my opinion, the best time that best thing that you could do. And then once I kind of unpacked all that baggage and kind of live with it and talk about it, then became a life coach later on, which is more kind of forward leaning and proactive. And this was like, am I really in the career I want to be in? Should I quit my job? Should I become an entrepreneur? And I have this amazing life coach. Her company is called Fog Dog Consulting, because she's like a fog dog and helps you see your way out of the fog. And I wrote a blog post about it one time, because when I used to tell people that I had a life coach, they would look at me like, oh, aren't you fancy? I think if you say you have a therapist, people think you're a wreck, which I was, so I'm fine saying that. And if you have a life coach, it just sounds like you're rich and fancy. I don't know. And, I say, for me to spend, $100 to sit down and, in a session and like get my life, you don't get your life in order in one session, but the first session changed my life. And, versus buying a sweater from Anthropologie, like what's a better use of your money? And so I don't think I would have had the courage to change my life as dramatically. I mean, I quit my job. I was teaching at a university. I stopped doing that as well. I started eating better. I started exercising. I became an entrepreneur. I basically changed everything in my life with the exception of my husband, my house, and my children. And I don't think I would have had the courage to do that without a life coach kind of pushing me and helping me.
Yeah. And I think that, like I always say, I'm always standing in the way of myself. And I just recently came back from, a retreat, the Boss Mom retreat. And like everybody had talked about how as women, we will end up paying like thousands of dollars for somebody to tell us permission to do the thing that we have always wanted to do. And so,
yes.
And that's so silly. Like you almost need somebody to tell you it's okay. Like, yes, you can go ahead and do this. Like, it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, you do need that. And, for me, my life before, I was such a people pleaser, and it was so ingrained in my DNA that even when I decided I want to be an entrepreneur, I could feel myself building a company to impress other people instead of doing it for why I wanted to do it. And so my life coach really helped me build the company kind of help me, guide me and help me find my own way. I mean, she wasn't telling me what to do, but help me find my own way of what did I want this company to be and how did I want it to work and how many employees, so that I didn't get caught back in that rat race that I was in before. And so I think it's just like, we all have been inspired by amazing teachers who've changed our lives, and we've been inspired by, coaches and authors. Like, why not, a life coach that, for me, it was the most dramatic change. And she helped me get clear on what drives me, what motivates me, what makes me happy, what drains me, what depletes me, what exhausts me. And, I can't recommend it.
Yeah, I really think, that's true. When you look at it as like, you're already spending money on self-help books. So obviously there's a need, like you have a desire to, seek out advice or seek out, growth within yourself or clarity. And a self-help coach does the same, or a life coach is similar to that, except that they can actually talk back to you, which is helpful.
Well, yeah. It makes it more actionable. So I am a self-help book junkie. It's the only genre of books I read. My husband's always like, why can't you just read trashy romance novels? And I'm like, because they're not going to save my soul. And so I'm a voracious reader of self-help books. I write in every single one of them. I do all the exercises. But that's kind of my
Mhm.
contemplative time where I'm really stewing on stuff. I'm thinking about that. I'm looking at my life through the lens of somebody else's life. And it's a wonderful foundation, but those books are not going to make you get off the couch, hold your feet to the fire, give you homework assignments. And the other thing that a therapist or a life coach can do that a self-help book will never do, it's at some point you have to say
Yeah.
this shit out loud. At some point you have to
Yeah.
say I'm unhappy. You have to say I feel broken. And if you're only journaling and you're only reading that in books, I don't think that you will have the
Mhm.
chance to make as much transformation than when you hear your own soul say that you're not happy or you don't like yourself. It forces you to change much faster than, oh, look, me and this author have something in common. We both don't
Right.
like ourselves, or we're both people pleasers, or
Yeah,
that's not
I
enough.
can definitely agree. I think that I am like one of those people that have like 20 million journals laying all over, the house. And but then when you actually say, like, I feel there's a level of freedom or a breakthrough that I feel when I write it out. Like just writing, sorting my thoughts out, that is awesome. But then I feel like there's another wall that I break through when I actually like say it out loud, because I feel like the writing is an internal, like it's getting it outside of me. But then when I say it out loud, then
Yep.
it's like I'm breaking through or overcoming or putting it out there to actually deal with whatever that thing is. And so it's like yeah, it's just an awesome
Yep.
feeling to be able, I mean, it's terrifying, but, but it's awesome.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. I think stage one is writing, and I still do that. So it's
Right.
not like you move beyond that. Like that's still a part of my life. But yeah, stage one is kind of getting it out of your body onto paper
Mm-hmm.
or out of your mind. And then secondly is letting it kind of slip out verbally, and it can be in casual conversation. So if you get back from a beach vacation and you have two young kids and you're exhausted and somebody at work says, "Hey, how was your beach vacation?" Don't lie
Yeah.
and say it was awesome. Say, it was great, but I'm really tired and, work feels
Yeah.
like a vacation compared to
Right.
what I just did, and you can start letting it slip out, your truth. And then I think, and then a whole nother level is doing what you're doing about doing a podcast or giving
Mm-hmm.
speeches like I do. And that's where you really feel the
Yeah.
power that you're not alone. Like you think you're alone when
Right.
you're writing in your journal, but when you start to touch other people and then you hear everybody say, your truth inspired me to
Mm-hmm.
be more truthful, then we're all the same. And we were all hiding behind something that is totally and
Mm-hmm.
utterly
Yeah.
unnecessary.
And I really love, your company, the Mom Complex. When I heard your TED Talk, I kind of got led to your site for your company, and I thought that was really great. And I wanted to ask you, why do you think that it's important that companies and products accurately display motherhood, like modern, motherhood, today's woman, other than, for obviously helping their business for the sale and etc. Why do you think it's important that they display that correctly for us to see on social media and their commercials and their products?
Yeah, the company was really born out of a personal pain point of mine, where I had my son was an infant, my
Yeah.
daughter was 2 years old, and I was watching TV one night, and I mean, just beyond exhausted, so tired, either crying or drinking
Right.
myself to sleep at night. I was so exhausted. And when I turned on the television, it was, beautiful women
Mm,
dancing around in high heels, ironing and cooking and cleaning. And I just felt like it
mm-hmm.
was wrong and that it certainly was not helpful to me. I wouldn't say it was damaging to me. I didn't lose a lot of sleep over it, but I just felt like
Mm-hmm.
it could be better. It could be more, realistic. And now that the company is really off the ground, we're getting more into
Mm-hmm.
product development. So helping, food brands launch kids lines, helping, toy companies launch toy lines, or like home delivery meal services, or like grocery pickup from grocery stores. Like we're helping companies physically make the lives of moms easier. And that's what our mission is, to make the
Well,
lives of moms
thank you for
easier.
that.
And
We appreciate you.
I know it's all kind of selfish. It's all kind of selfish on behalf of mothers. But, you know, these big companies have very antiquated and outdated views of motherhood. So they think that we're June Cleaver and we love nothing more to
No.
cook and
Yeah.
clean. And you can see it in any paper towel
Right.
commercial that you've ever watched. And so what my team does is goes in and we just speak the truth and we talk about how hard it is and challenging and dinner time sucks and nobody enjoys it, and then we help them be more helpful. And it's a wonderful business. And but I also have a very manageable life. As I mentioned, my life coach helped me build the company to or to kind of helped me figure out how to build the company to be a reasonable size that it didn't take over
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah, and I love that you wrote a blog post on something, and I know something you wrote a lot of blog posts on something, but but like you posted this one quote like in the middle of it, and it said stop shitting all over yourself, and I was like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
like but I loved your insight on deciding how to spend your time, because of mom guilt. Like I feel like like every time we come to this like fork in the road, there's always this confrontation with mom guilt. And so how do you put into
Mm-hmm.
perspective like what you do, how you decide to spend your time or divide your time, or the free little moments that you have?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just wrote a blog post this Monday actually about that was yesterday. Gosh, okay. So that about kind of picking and
Mm-hmm.
choosing your battles. And so, for example,
Yep.
my kids are 8 and 10, and when they were probably 6 and 8, I decided I was no longer going to make
Mm-hmm.
breakfast for them during
Yep.
the week or the weekends. They were perfectly capable of pouring a bowl of cereal, toasting waffles, heating up microwave pancakes, whatever, eating yogurt. And so I drew the line. I said, I'm not going to do breakfast anymore. You all can do this. And they whined and moaned and complained. And for like 2 weeks, it was really hard. And they were like looking at me with their puppy dog eyes and pouty faces. And were like, please help me spread the Nutella. And my husband kept looking at me like I was really mean. He was giving me that look like, gosh, you grew these children in your own body and you can't toast a bagel for them. And but I would pour my cup of tea and I would go in the other room and either watch the news or get some work done, or on a Saturday get back in my bed and read a self-help book. And so over time they just stopped asking. And now they make me breakfast sometimes now. So I think there's little moments that you can say, like, can my kids do this on their own? I'm not a bad mother because I don't make my children
Mm-hmm.
breakfast. I'm a great mother, and I don't make breakfast. And so I think you can find ways to draw a line in the sand. It'll be hard in the beginning, and there'll be pushback. Every child wants you to do
Mm-hmm.
everything for them. And also, like with volunteering at the kids' school, that's just, I have a lot going on. And I don't put a lot of stock in that. I, of course, go to their school plays, but I'm not bringing napkins to the school. I'm not signing up to do all these things. It's too much for me for the stage of what I'm in my life right now with writing a book and
Mm-hmm.
running a company. And I have to let that go. And I always say, you can only major in the majors. And if you're going to major in the majors, you have to decide what battles you're willing to lose. And if some of the mothers at my son's school feel like I'm not that involved, I have to be okay with that. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm going to kill myself. And, I'm going to be stretched too thin. So that's a battle that I am willing to lose. And I can still consider myself a good mother, even though I don't volunteer as much as the other mothers in the
Yeah,
class.
and I read that post about that as well, and I thought that that was so true. Like if we all weren't just trying to like who can raise our hand the fastest and sign up for the most thing, like have that mom pressure
Yes.
thing, I think that we would feel less guilty for the amount that we really and truly want to, volunteer for or do, because I feel like there's like a peer pressure that you feel like, oh well, and just like in the movie Bad Moms, it's like if you brought the baked goods that came from the grocery store, it's like frowned upon,
Yeah.
but it's like
Yeah.
maybe that's all you have time for. Like, and
Absolutely. And those people, I mean, this is, um, maybe this sounds harsh, but those human beings that are judging you
yeah,
don't know your full life. And maybe they're not judging you as much as you think they're judging you, but also they're not going to be in your life forever. Like I'm going to be in my son's life
yeah.
forever, you know? And so is he going to remember that I didn't, volunteer to clean up after the school play, that I only went to it? Like, I don't think that
Yeah.
matters to him. And I always tell moms too that if you're going through a tough time and you think you're not doing enough, that we are trying to please the teacher and the soccer coach and all these people
Mm-hmm.
and impress them. But the only people that you really should care about if you're a good mother are your children. And so I always say, ask your child what makes you a
Mm.
good mother. And you're certainly leading the witness,
Yeah.
by saying that, but it really helps. So when my daughter was 5, we were laying in bed and I said, what makes me a good mommy? And she looked at me and she said, you're nice to me and you buy me pink clothes. And I was like, okay, people, the bar is not as
Right.
high as we think it is. My daughter doesn't care if the broccoli is frozen or it's organic. She would be quite happy if she never had to eat it. And so, like, the definition of a good mother in my daughter's eyes when she was 5 was I say a few nice words every now and again, and I take her to Target and
Right.
buy some
Yeah.
cheap T-shirts. Like that's winning. And I've even had parents do it with teenagers. I mean, it doesn't the age,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter. But the things we care about are are really not that, or that we worry about, I should say, are
Mm-hmm.
not really that
Yeah.
important.
Well, and like I said, I was just gone this past weekend for that retreat, and I am the one who wakes up early to like make all the things. And recently, my daughter, like when I was gone the whole time, that's what she did. She made breakfast. Like she did it, and it's because I wasn't here
Hmm.
to like hover over. And so I think there's a lot of like I think some of the times it's like another one of those things where like we're standing in our own way of either trying to do it right or get
Yes.
it done faster but like she really has a desire to do it. And she asked me the other day, she's like, Mom, can I start deciding and making lunch once a week? And then she wants to see if she can do it once a week, and then she wants to like slowly like move up and do it twice a week and 3 times a week. And so I'm like, sure, let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Our kids are far more capable than
Mm-hmm.
we think they are, and we think we have to be involved in everything. I hear mom saying all the time, like if they're out of town, that they like make all these meals before they leave town, and I'm like, well, why can't your
Mm-hmm.
husband or your partner make dinner while you're gone? And it's this like fear of like, oh my God, they would totally screw it up, or oh my gosh, they would be eating Pop-Tarts for dinner or cereal. But it's like, sometimes that's okay, or sometimes maybe they wouldn't. Maybe they would have to figure it out. But putting all that pressure on you to make meals before you go out of town, that's just a lot of extra weight and
Mm-hmm.
pressure and stress that can be
Yeah.
alleviated,
Yeah.
a little
Oh,
bit at
yeah,
least.
totally. I think there needs to be a commercial. When you were saying that paper towel thing, I was like, I think there just needs to be a commercial where like the mom goes down or goes and sits down with a glass of wine, and then the dad like takes over, because that's like real life. Half the time he's like, honey, go sit down. Like, cause he can tell, like, I mean, they're
Yeah.
like overwhelmed, about to lose it, or, whatever. And he just handles it. And I think that a lot of the times, commercials portray like the mom being all the things and doing all the things, and it's like, well, like a lot of the times my husband steps in and I just chill out for a minute, like a lot of the times. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the great exercises from my life coach was I was so wrapped up in like the success of my job and impressing other people that she made me do this exercise. And she said, I want you to first and foremost write down your definition of success in life, not at work. Like, what is your definition
Mm-hmm.
of success in life? And then, and only then, once you do that, I want you to write down your definition of success, in the working world. And what's fascinating is I never had a definition of success, of what
Mm-hmm.
that looked like. And so I do think we look to
Mm-hmm.
television commercials, or we look to other mothers of like, oh, it makes me successful if I'm volunteering all the time, or it makes me successful. But that's looking at your life through
Mm-hmm.
other people's eyes. And I think you have to look at your life through your eyes. And so figuring out what is success. And for me, it's just the littlest things. It's like walking down the street holding my husband's hand, or it's having the presence of mind to like really sit down and be with my children, or going for a hike in the woods, whatever it is. But it's not big things. And it certainly has nothing to do with what other people think
Right.
I should be
And
doing.
as a working mom who's obviously busy, how do you kind of cultivate that connection or keep that connection with your husband and balance kind of, marriage, motherhood, and work life? Because I know so many moms that are listening are like, just like you, where they have a job that takes up a lot of time, but yet like they have a marriage and they have, then they're also a parent. So how do you kind of divide and um, just pour into each of those areas in a way that is healthy?
Yeah, that might be my next frontier to figure out. I'm still working on that one. I definitely have the work-life balance finally figured out for the first time in my life. Um, but I would like to find ways to spend more time with my husband. We're both very busy. But I would say that we have so much respect for each other because we really do divide and conquer. So we divide and conquer a lot of the kids' activities and school activities and sporting activities. And so we both bring a lot of respect for each other to the table, because it's kind of a 50-50 split in terms of, child rearing activities. And we used to be better about movie nights. That was kind of a thing for a while, but and you getting a babysitter, and it's great when you can go to the movies where you
Yeah.
can eat at the movies, like a cine bistro, because that's like you can pay less for a babysitter and knock out dinner
Mm-hmm.
and a movie at the same time. But I would say that the times that we spend the most together are with our friends. We live in a great neighborhood with a lot of friends. And I always think when it comes to your spouse, I mean, this is personal for me, but I always learn more about my husband when we're around our friends. Because, you just open up, or you start talking about your workday or things that you don't have the energy to
Yeah.
talk about at home. And so we do a lot of kind of double or triple dates, and honestly learn about a lot about each other in that environment. But we don't do a lot of, just like sitting by the fire staring into each other's eyes.
I mean, I think that's what people think it has to be. Like when you think like, oh, date night, then you're like, oh, it has to be this like elaborate thing that nobody does. Like nobody has time for that, and that's not realistic.
Right.
And also, just like you said, you put away, like you can spend like $100 at your favorite store to buy like one sweater or something, or one pair of shoes, but like maybe it's that you don't, and then you spend that money on a babysitter
Yeah.
if your relationship really needs to be poured into in that season or whatever. That I mean, that's something that my husband and I have talked about. Like we have to do date nights because that's just how we are able to better stay connected, and I can step out of the mom role mentally and
Mm-hmm.
physically, because I actually get dressed. But like, so like those are
Yeah.
for me like a moment to step outside of my normal role, and then when I come back in, it's like, okay, I can do this again, like it but
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and you need that, and sometimes it might be with your husband, but sometimes it might be
Yeah.
with your girlfriends. And that's another thing in our relationship. We are very supportive
Mm-hmm.
of each other, having our own
Mm-hmm.
lives and friends. And so like tonight I'm going over a girlfriend's house to watch This
Oh
Is
my
Us,
gosh.
and we're going to drink wine, and he's going to take care of the kids. And so we're very supportive of that, because sometimes you need to not be a wife and not be a mom, and remember that you're a human being and a
Mm-hmm.
woman. And so we do a lot of that, which I think is and supportive of girls' weekends or guys' golf weekends. And I have some friends, they're like, gosh, it's so neat that you let your husband play golf so much. And I'm like, it's a huge part of his life and he loves it. And I would never say, you can't play golf this Saturday. You have to sit around and
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
to me, like that's not going to end well, of like,
Mm-hmm.
that nobody wins. So I think friend time is
Yeah,
very
yeah,
important.
definitely. Um, And okay, so you said something. I was reading something. I think it was one of your blog posts, and you said hard times are not the problem. Your belief that hard times are bad is the problem. And that was like, I was like, that was a mic drop moment. Like, so I was like, I have to bring that up because I want her to talk about that.
Yeah, I think that
Mm-hmm.
like life is hard and it's always going to be hard and kids are going to be messy and they're going to make mistakes and you're going to be messy and you're going to make mistakes. Like that's life. But when you know that's going to be the case, you can accept it more. But when you walk around, life and think that it's supposed to be like skipping through wheat fields and
Yeah.
everybody's happy and everybody has it figured out and you're a trash fire, like that is a recipe
Mm-hmm.
for suffering. And so one of the things that I do, I used to get really angry with my kids at night. I'd have a long, hard day at work. And then I would come in the door and, they would spill something or drop something. And I would just be like, gosh, like, let's get it together, people. And it would
Right.
make me like fly off the handle. And my husband said one night, he said, I think you just wanted to be perfect, at home. And I was like, good point. And so now every night when I walk into my house, as I grab the
Mm-hmm.
front door knob to my house, before my hand touches the knob, I say, I expect something to
Mm-hmm.
go wrong, or I expect this to be a mess. And 30 minutes later, when my daughter surprises me by telling me she has a science test tomorrow that she hasn't studied for yet, and she's crying and freaking out, I say to myself, yeah, I figured
Mm-hmm.
this was going to happen. And so I think you just have to go through motherhood with the expectation that it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
hard. And then you don't feel like a loser when
I think
it's hard.
expectations are hard. Actually, that's strange. That's like awesome that you had brought that up because I had just told my husband that like if you're gonna work late nights, let me know because I have an expectation of like the normal time that he comes home. So if he waits till the last minute to tell me, which obviously sometimes can't be helped, it kind of messes me up a little bit because I'm expecting him to walk in the door at that time, not to tell me that he's going to be late. And so I'm like, if there's an expectation, like an expectation set, then kind of expect it to happen. But if you tell me like in the morning or the night before that, hey, like I'm not sure, it could be a long day today, then I'm like, my expectations are that, well, he could come home, but like he could also come home later. And so then I find myself like not getting as upset or not getting, so that's,
Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy that,
Yes.
just doing that alone, like just acknowledging, like, because expectations are huge, I feel like, and something so little can change your day or the way you respond so much.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think the world revolves around expectations. And it goes back to, like, I was expecting things to
Mm-hmm.
be perfect, at home and my children to be obedient angels, or you're expecting your husband at a certain time. And it's not that you have to lower your expectations. Like your example's a great one. It's just being
Mm-hmm.
more transparent, about them, or being more realistic about them. But yeah, I think a lot of times our expectations are incredibly unrealistic. And I, again, read a lot of self help books. And so Eckhart Tolle in The
Mm-hmm.
Power of Now talks about the definition of human suffering is when your expectations exceed your ability to achieve those
Mm-hmm.
expectations. So, in other words, my expectation is everything's going to be perfect, everything's going to be great, nothing's going to fall through the cracks. I'm going to make my own baby
Yeah.
food, catch my child before they ever fall.
Yeah.
Like, you
No.
can't do that all. And so then, there's this gap where my expectations are sky high, but I can't achieve them. And then that's the definition of human suffering. So that really helped me realign my expectations, knowing that I was causing
Mm-hmm.
my own suffering.
And I'm just going to put this out there, but like most of the time, whenever my children have fallen when they were babies, it was on my watch. Like they've either fallen out of the crib, off the changing table, and I'm going to, like, obviously I freaked out and you don't want that to happen to your kid, but like, I feel like moms are like, oh my gosh, I'm the worst mom ever. Or it's like, put on the dad's like, oh, like if the kid falls, it'll be on the dad. Like the mom would never let that happen, but it's happened to me twice, both kids,
Right.
and it's been on my watch. And
Yep.
my husband, he reminds me, he's like, who did that? And I'm like, I know. And we like laugh about it though. But anyways, I just had to put that out. Really, have you read Brene Brown's Braving the Wilderness yet?
I have not. It is on I've read several of her books, and
Yeah.
that is on my list,
No,
but I've
that's
not. Have
I
you?
was, but since I think
Okay.
you're ahead of me on like how many you've read. So I was like, surely she's read it. So I was hoping you could
Yeah.
give me a little teaser.
No, but gosh, like it's another good reminder, because it's something like that when several people mention something to me, I'm like, gosh, it's
I've
time. I need to
heard,
go get
I've
it.
heard like so many amazing things about it that I'm really excited to read that actually. So, well, I
Yeah.
just want to acknowledge you that I am grateful that you've created this company. Like even if you're helping other companies, better their business and their, profits, but it's helping us as women on the other side. We have to see it. So like if it's in a world, where they're still thinking of Carol Brady, that's not helpful for me. Like that is continuing to perpetuate the cycle of like what I think I should be or, that's unrealistic. And so,
Yeah.
I think that's really awesome, and especially for you to do your TED Talk because that was hilarious and very on point. That I was like, yes, these are all the things. Yeah, so I really appreciate you being transparent about motherhood and your own journeys in motherhood.
Yeah, well, it has helped me, and I can't recommend
Yeah.
it enough. And it's very fulfilling to know that it has helped others too. That's extremely rewarding, because, like you, I saw other people do it before me, and we have to stick
Yeah.
together and help
Yeah.
each
So
other.
if you guys listening haven't watched her TED Talk, it's you could look it up on the TED Talk channel on YouTube, but it's The Mask of Motherhood, and it's really good. So I have three last questions for you. If you could choose one book that you found to be the most influential, what would it be?
I would say Finding Your Own North Star by Martha Beck. And Martha Beck happens to be
Oh,
Oprah's life coach. So she's got some
yeah.
mad credentials. And this book will help you, certainly helped me figure out what you want to do with your life and what you need to do to get there, and definitely set me on the right track. It's
Okay.
very
Oh,
actionable.
I've never even heard of that. I can't believe.
It's
Now I'm adding two
good.
books. I'm like, okay, now I have to.
And oh, one other thing I was going to say too, real quick, it wouldn't work with Finding Your Own North Star, but it would work with Brené's Brown book or like an Eckhart Tolle book. But when my kids were younger and the reading of self help books was hard, or I was so exhausted, I would listen to a lot of them on audio. And so that's just another thing for busy moms, is you don't have to completely give up, on the idea of self help books. You can listen
Yeah,
to
and
them
I
on
want to
audio
say that
too.
I used to be very anti like audible, or podcasting. And it was hard for me to transition. I don't know if it was like a mental thing or something, but I felt like it almost felt like another piece of my like freedom or whatever, because on my free time I would listen to like music in the car on the way to school. So it was like, well, this is what I want to jam out to pick up my kids before I have to put on my mom mask. But actually, when I
Yeah.
started listening to these books, on Audible, and then I switched over to podcasting, or listening to podcasts, which is hilarious because now I'm a podcaster and I used to hate podcasts. But like once I found, things that I really love, like when I found the right podcast to listen to that really, I enjoyed listening to them and then reading books, I felt so much better. So I would I would actually prefer to listen to books or podcasts in the car, because when you walk
Yeah.
away from something that's pouring into you, like it's energizing, or
Yeah.
it just makes your mood better, versus like music, you kind of, can relax to, but it doesn't really
Yeah.
do anything for you mentally or emotionally. And so now I feel like listening to music is actually like more draining than. Anyways, I just thought I'd share
Yeah.
that in case moms
I
are like,
agree.
no, I don't want to listen to a
Yep.
book while I'm, doing laundry. Um,
Right?
but
Yeah.
yeah, if you could empower women in one way, what would it be?
I would say you need to do whatever you can do to make sure that your insides match your outsides. And that how you feel on the inside is communicated to the world. And if you don't do that or can't find the courage to do that, you will continue to lead a double life where your gut instinct says you should be saying no, but your mouth says yes all the time. And it's exhausting and it is no way to live. And I interview moms of all ages. And when you get into moms in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, they have all figured this out. And they only live one life. And they say what they mean and they mean what they say, and their insides match their outsides. And I would say, don't wait so long to get there. There is no reason for you to lead a double
So if
life.
you don't really want to bake the cupcakes, don't bake the cupcakes and bring the napkins instead.
Don't bake the cupcakes. Exactly. Exactly. Don't do it. Like it nobody cares as much as you think they do. And it creates friction. It creates doubt. It creates fear. And so many moms, are so tired. And because being a mother is really hard, but it's not only hard because of the physical things and the dragging and the dropping and the racing and the rushing and the buckling and unbuckling, that's exhausting. But what's more exhausting is the mental anguish when we don't feel like we can be who we are or say who we are or act the way we feel. That is more tiring than, picking up after messy
Yeah.
kids. So I would say make sure you're living a life that is aligned and not
That's really
disconnected.
good. If you could tell your younger self one thing, assuming that she would listen, what would it be? What would it be? Right.
That therein lies the challenge. I would say don't wait so long to love yourself. I think the secret to life is self-respect, self-compassion, self-esteem, self-worth, and how you feel about yourself dictates your actions, your behavior, your happiness. And I waited way too long. I did not learn to love myself, until I was 35 years old, which I'm very thankful. I'm 40 now, so I've had 5 great years of that. But, and not only do I benefit from my self love, that can feel like a selfish concept, especially when you're a mother, but my children are happier, my husband is happier, our lives are richer because, the whole if mama ain't
Right.
happy, nobody's happy type metaphor comes into play. And so, yeah, you will figure it out one day. And I would say don't
Oh,
wait.
that's really good. So when can we expect your book to be out? Do we know?
My book is going to be out January
Okay.
2019. Apparently, it takes forever to make books. Which I'm learning. So my manuscript is due March 15th, and it'll be released under Barnes and Noble's New Year, New You in 2019. But in the meantime, on my blog, which is inallhonesty.com, I regularly write blog posts on all of these topics. So I'll still be doing that up until the
Yeah, and you
release
guys
of the
have got
book.
to check out her blog because it's really, really good. Obviously, that's where I got a lot of these topics from because I was like, as I was reading, I'm like, yes, we need to talk about all these things. Yeah, because it's just really
Yes.
good. And we can follow you. How can we follow you on social media?
On Twitter, it's at kwinch. And then Instagram is kwinch. My last name is spelled Wintsch. Um, and yeah, and on my blog.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see you on Oprah. Have you been on Oprah? Because you totally need to be on Oprah.
I haven't, but I feel like we're
I
friends
know.
because she has impacted my life. And that is, I was telling my publisher the other day, they're like, the holy grail, like what would just be, the media placement that would be so crazy
Uh-huh.
when the book comes out. And I was like, Super Soul Sunday, which is the best show
Yes.
ever. So we'll see.
Okay. Well,
If you can dream it, it can happen.
yes.
So I'm going to keep dreaming
I'm
it.
going to be willing it in your way as well. But
Thank you.
but yeah. So thank you so much for being on. I really really appreciate your time, and yeah, I really think that we are going to benefit from your book, even if it's in 2019. I feel like we can just read your blog until then, and it'll be like
Yeah, a teaser.
yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for the work you're doing to help moms as well.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed that episode, and I really appreciate you tuning into the Today's Eating podcast. As you know, there are a ton of podcasts that you could be listening to, but I am so grateful that you chose this one. And so, if you could just do me a favor and leave a review or rating on iTunes, that would really, really help me out, and I would really appreciate it. And the quote I have for you today is, you could take your kids to a restaurant or cut out the middleman and just spill a drink, throw crayons under the table, and light $40 on fire. I mean, that sounds that sounds pretty much accurate to me. You guys have an awesome Wednesday, and I hope you tune in next week.